and welcome to episode 57 of the Gaslec podcast. We're now on Spotify video as well as YouTube video and still across all of the audio-only platforms. So thank you very much indeed for listening, guys, and hopefully we'll have some new viewers as well. So this week's episode is all about copper pipe, a little bit of history about copper pipe, some of the practicalities of copper pipe and the benefits of using copper over like the plastic or steel alternatives. We'll also be answering some of the listeners' questions, and we have a guy that's come to us in his early 20s and wants to get into plumbing and heating, and I'm going to give him some tips on that as well. We'll also be talking about some of the temperatures that we have to deal with within the plumbing and heating industry. So hot burns as well as cold burns. But first of all, here's my friend Sean to tell you a bit more about the podcast.
Are you a new person coming into plumbing and heating? Are you a homeowner that likes a bit of DIY? Or are you a business owner and wanted a bit more knowledge before you make some decisions on your plumbing and heating? Stay tuned to the podcast and hopefully we'll be able to help you out with some of your questions.
So guys, thank you very much indeed for listening. So here everyone, welcome back to the episode. I've actually put all this, there's quite a lot of information, so I've actually put it up onto the teleprompter. So I will be reading this out to you, so rather than just doing bullet points, there's some details that I really want to get correct into this here. So apologies if it is me just reading back to you on this part here, but I really want to get it just right. I don't want to make any mistakes, cause anybody any errors there. So copper pipe. So let's start with the advantages of copper. First of all, the durability. When installed properly, copper pipes can last over 50 years inside your property. So that's a really good investment. We start looking at, I know that the plastic pipes, I think, come with a 25-year warranty. The steel pipes won't really last that long because they start corroding on the inside and they start getting thinner as well. So that from that side of it, you won't be able to get that sort of lifespan out of it, certainly on the water side. So some of the properties of copper, they're naturally resistant to corrosion. Unlike some materials like your steels and stuff like that, copper doesn't rust, which helps maintain your water quality over time. So from your drinking water point, there's a lot of oxygen in water, and which that helps then on the corrosion side. So here's something you may not know about copper. It's actually got microbiological properties, and it actually inhibits the growth of bacteria and other microorganisms, which means it'll stay cleaner and safer for the water running through your pipes. And with another thing with copper, if we was to have more light switches, more finger plates or the door plates, stuff that we touch with our hands, and this really come around in COVID when we were starting to look at moving around the virus and stuff like that we all had at the time. And I think if we have more operating theatres in hospitals when everything that could be touched was made of or plated in copper, and cruise ships, if all of the handrails and the lift buttons and all that, we wouldn't get the big outbreaks that we do of the norovirus and all the infection rates within operating theatres as well. So it's a really good material all round. And from an environmental point of view, copper is a winner as well. It's 100% recyclable, which I didn't know about actually, with no loss in quality. Unlike paper, where you get good quality paper, like your stuff you put in your printer, and then it goes off and you recycle it, then becomes a newspaper, so it drops in quality. And then when that gets recycled, it becomes toilet roll. And after that, you know, the paper is actually lost because all the fibres break down. But you don't get that with copper, which is fantastic. And around 80% of all copper ever mined is still in use today. So that's a mind-blowing stat when you think about how much we really rely on it. 80% is still around, which is fantastic. And its strength is under pressure as well. Copper handles high pressures and high temperatures, and water pressures as well, which is great for our heating systems and our hot water systems. So it'll handle water well over 100 degrees, go up 200, 300, 400 degrees, no doubt, not a problem at all. So in our domestic homes, we wouldn't be water exceeding sort of 90-95% in a really worst case scenario. I did see, and I've said it on another podcast, I had hot water at tap at 97 degrees once, where the overheat stat on the immersion heater had gone wrong. So that would get to the point with the distance it covered, the water must have been at boiling point in the cylinder. So copper pipe handled it without a problem at all. I don't think plastic pipe can handle that. I think it only goes to 65 degrees, I think, and at that point it starts to really get soft and to start and break down. So copper pipe really is a great choice in material. It's also got it's not toxic, so it won't leach any of the harmful material, the chemicals into your water system. So it doesn't break down with time. It's UV stable as well, so you can have it outside, it won't break down. And it's fantastic because things like E. coli can't, and you've got your Legionella that can't grow within inside the copper pipes. So it's fantastic for if you've got vulnerable people, elderly people, young people, and people that are poorly as well, which is the perfect material for that. But copper can corrode. If the water supply is too acidic, it leads to the leaks and potential contamination. So there is a cost. There is a cost to copper, which is generally more expensive than alternatives like plastic or steel or barrel systems. But I think the long-term effects of it and the reliability and the durability of copper, it really does sort of show out. But there are some places where plastic pipe really does have its advantages. But this episode, we're just talking about copper. So the history of copper. Do you know that the first use of copper pipes for water dates back to 2750 BC? In ancient Egypt, archaeologists found copper water pipe in the Nile Delta. Think about the going back to all that amount of time that they found copper and they managed to work it, to melt it, and to get it into a shape as well. And apparently it's still going and holding together 4,000 years on. I'd love to see that little bit of copper pipe there. I'm a bit nerdy on that sort of stuff, so maybe on another YouTube video I'll explore some of the pictures onto that as well. See, it actually comes from the earth. So copper actually comes deep within the Earth's core. Millions of years ago, volcanic activity forced it through the crust. And where it cooled, it solidified into rich veins where we mine it today. It literally is earth-born and time-tested. So, yeah, it's all part of our core of our planet, which is amazing. Here in the UK, copper pipe, we actually manufacture here. There's a few manufacturers. We've got Wensbury, which I think Screwfix still. There's another one, Lawton's, I think it is, another big copper manufacturer. And what they do is when we recycle it, we take it to the scrap merchants. They actually melt it back down here within the UK and then bring it back on. So copper pipe uses only about 15%, so recycled pipe uses about 15% of the energy to make it back into new pipe, other than getting it from a raw material and bringing it back in. So the recyclability of copper is really, really important. So a lot of people talk about TY, TX, LMKs and all the rest of it. So that's all sort of old numbers really. So from a pipe temper point of view, so from our EN numbers or British standard numbers, so you'll come across terms like R220, R250 and R290. So that's not refrigerant gas, because they also use similar numbers as well for refrigerant, but from a copper point of view. So the R220 is a soft copper. So this is very malleable, so you can bend it by hand quite easily. And we use that within air conditioning and within refrigeration. So it's called a soft copper. R250 is just standard copper that you'd normally see, and they call it hard. So you could still bend it with a set of benders, not really with your hands without it kinking, certainly on the 15 side. I wouldn't try and do it with a bit of 22. Well, certainly going up from that, I'm not strong enough for that. But that's really what we use mainly within our homes and in our commercial works, the R250. And the R290 is a stronger, more stiff, more rigid. Perfectly when dealing with higher pressures. And that's a specialist order. You won't get that in your merchants just off the shelf or in your screw fixes or any of your home DIY shops. It'll be your 250s and off you go. So these are all part of the BSEN 1057 codes which is the British and the European standards for copper tubes from the plumbing and heating system. So why does copper prices go up and down so much? Certainly within the COVID side, we saw a massive rise when copper started to get a bit more sparse. The scrap metal yards were closed, so the scrap metal wasn't going into the manufacturing to be melted down to making some new copper. And as we know, it only uses 15% of the energy to actually make new copper pipe from recycled, other than making it from brand new as well. So we saw a massive rocket in copper prices then. And then we found it in the 70s as well. We had a bit of a perfect storm of the rising, the economies around the world were booming. We had all the baby boomers from after the war, who were then buying their first houses, buying cars, getting jobs. Everything, our house building was going absolutely berserk, and electrical was taking off. And we use a lot of copper in electrical. We use it in plumbing. We use it copper windings in motors and stuff like that. So there's a massive boom in that. And because copper is a commodity that's traded on the stock market, what we then find is that then that pushes up the prices. And there was a massive rise in the 70s as well with copper prices. We actually done a job last week, and we had some water pipes. We were doing a system conversion. We had some water pipes there, and what we actually found with the water pipes is they were made with like a steel pipe, and not the 15 mil, but not with a copper pipe. And that house was built in the early 70s, and that would have been around that time. So it looks like a copper pipe-ish, but it actually is not. It's actually like a steel pipe. It's actually a bit harder as well as it goes through. So now let's talk about heat. So, excuse me, got hay fever's really started off today, so apologies guys, itchy noses. Copper point has a melting point just over 1,000 degrees Celsius, so which is ideal for what we use it in the plumbing and heating industry. We're not really going to get to those sort of temperatures. For soldering, soft solder melts between 90 and 450 degrees, so typically we'll see it around that sort of 300-ish mark. And that will be our solder, the lead-free solder that we buy from the merchants, which comes in a coil, a few mil rounds, and we drop that onto our copper pipe for soldering. And that's really great for more domestic plumbing and heating. And we've got something called hard solder. Often we call it brazing, and that's above 450 degrees. So we're getting off about 600 degrees-ish, that sort of number. When we use what's called silver solder, and it comes in sticks, and we really use that in like air conditioning for that sort of applications because of the pressures and the temperatures. Or some points in when you're doing LPG and you're running through like a boat engine room and you've got to put a joint in there, you can't be using normal solder because the temperatures could get so hot in there, it could melt the solder. That'll then let all the gas out, and you've got a catastrophe ready to happen right there. So not a lot of people know this, and I was doing a bit of preparation for this podcast at home earlier this afternoon. So that our blow lamps can generate flame temperatures of around 1,300 degrees, and that's just on the butane. That's on the blue bowls, and around 2,000 degrees on the yellow map. Now, I'm not a massive fan of the yellow map. I think it does burn too hot and it's too fierce. So predominantly we use the blue, and I've used blue to solder 35. So above that, really, we use press. But you know, you can get some really good temperatures, really big pipes, really up to 35 mil. People say, "Oh no, you need MAC over 28." You don't. Absolutely fine on the blue. And if you add oxygen with the mix, with a bit of MAP gas, you can get almost 3,000 degrees. And if you're getting onto like your octane setting, you know, your gun with the two pipes that come up to it, and it mixes in, and you set the flame. And when you start getting up to 3,000 degrees, that's then when it starts becoming a cutter rather than a soldering item. So we never use any of that sort of stuff really in plumbing and heating. But if you ever wondered why the blow lamp nozzle doesn't melt, so So I was looking into this and thinking, why doesn't it melt? So there's a couple of things that we do air conditioning systems here. So we've done on the F-gas side of things. So there's a few other things to do with gas and refrigerant gas that we deal with. So I may have a little bit more knowledge on this side of it, which makes a little bit more sense to me. I'm going to try and explain this for you here. So here's a little bit of cool bit of science. Literally, butane is stored in the liquid in the bottle. And let's say it's sitting at room temperature. And as we let the gas out of the bottle, and it comes through the nozzle and comes to the tip where it's lit on the outside of the tip of the blow lamp, and that's burning at 2,000 degrees, 1,300 degrees, whatever it is. But the actual gas as it leaves will expand by 274 times its volume. And so when we've got, let's say the bottle's sitting at room temperature, maybe 20 degrees, when it rapidly expands to 270 times its volume, that is then when it massively drops in temperature. And temperatures can be recorded of minus 100 to minus 200 degrees Celsius. And that's the cold gas flow that keeps the whole tip cool, even when it's surrounded by its intense flame. So the good thing about all of that is that the coldness of the gas coming through is then counteracted by the temperature, and that then just keeps the whole thing burning just right. And obviously, that's been manufactured and tested to make sure that that's all fine. So that wraps up our deep dive on the copper. But copper's been around since the ancient Egyptians and still one of the best choices for plumbing and heating today. Durable, recyclable, and packed with benefits, and there's no wonder it stood the good test of time. So, there we go. So that's the bit there on the copper pipe. So I want to talk to you. We had a listener on one of the Facebook channels. So let's put this back to there. Thank you. On one of the Facebook channels that we were a member of, which is the Plumbing Apprentices and Trainees group, what it was called. And there was a lad on there from South East London Way. I think he was 24 years old, really wants to get into plumbing and heating. So I'm going to be a bit controversial here. So unless you want to get onto building sites and do all that house bashing, now there is people do enjoy it. Here at Gaslec, I've done it a bit myself. Didn't like it. I don't like the environment. I don't like the fact that you're all on a price. You're all under each other's feet. Everyone's moaning about everybody else. It's rush, rush, rush. The electrician wants to get the wires in, and they're pushing you out of the way. Us plumbers that were in there, we want to get the pipes run. You get people being nasty, cutting pipes with knives and stuff like that, being spiteful. Then you've got the plasterers in there. Then you've got the carpenters in there. And you've got all of these people, because you're on a fixed price and you may get, I don't know, 200, 300, 400 quid to run a heating system in an empty house in a new build. You just want to get in there and get out as quick as possible. And it doesn't matter what it looks like, because it can be covered up by somebody else. It doesn't matter how much rubbish you leave on the floor, because somebody else will pick it all up. And that sort of mindset, I didn't like it. I didn't like there was didn't really feel much finesse within what you're doing. But if you really want to go down that road and do that mass house bashing, which is absolutely fantastic, if you crack onto it, nobody will ring me for it. That's my theory on that one. You will need to get some formal qualifications on that. And whether that's your MVQ or your City and Guilds or wherever it be, go off and do your apprenticeship, which at the moment, apprenticeships are really, really difficult to get nailed down. The government have got a massive problem with apprenticeships and really not sort of supporting new people coming through, whatever industry it is. What I would say, and is not bother going to college. There is so much information. We've got our little YouTube channel here talking about plumbing and heating. You've got millions of YouTube videos from around the world talking about plumbing and heating, how you do this and how you do that, and all the tips and stuff on there. I believe that the education system is prehistoric. It is, you turn up, you learn a set thing, rule book, whatever this, and then you go from there and you do a test and you're just ticking a box. But if you want to do the sites, you need to get your cards. If you need to get your cards, you've got to do the qualification. But if you just want to go and do plumbing and heating and go and work for a builder, work for yourself, go and work for another plumbing and heating company as an improver, then you don't need qualifications for it. Just be mindful that if you are a little bit inexperienced in the plumbing and heating game, you're taking on stuff that's a little bit beyond your means, make sure you've got some really good insurance. Now, I've done some videos before on some of the tips that I do. I always have a plan A and I always have a disaster plan B. So if we're doing this, we're cutting this pipe and I don't know that it's empty of water properly. So I'm convinced that the water's turned off and isolated, but there may still be a bit in there. I'll have a bucket, I'll have some towels, I'll have a wet vac. I'm on the first floor. Could it go through to the ceiling of the ground floor? Are we on the ground floor and we've got some beautiful wooden floor that's going to get damaged? Are we in a loft conversion where we're balancing on bits of wood and we've got literally the ceiling of the floor below us, directly below us, that's going to get really wet like that really quickly and start staining through very fast? So obviously it's horses for courses. Are you working on an outside tap in the garden? You get a bit of a leak in a garage or something and it doesn't really matter. So I always have my plan A and I always have my plan B. But whatever you do and whatever way you do it, if you're doing it for yourself, make sure you're properly insured, because if it goes wrong, it can go wrong for tens of thousands of pounds. And what you don't want to do is not be insured, cause some damage to a property, and then they're coming to you personally for all the money because you've got no policy to cover it. It's a bit like wearing a seatbelt in a car crash. You can't have the crash and then put your seatbelt on. You've got to have your seatbelt on before the crash. And it's exactly the same with insurance. So get that done. But, whatever you're doing for money to support yourself at the moment, Guy, what I would say is that there's plenty of videos. Get yourself some copper pipe, whether you go to the merchants and buy it, whether you go to the local scrapyard that weighs in the copper pipe and then buy off of them, because I do know it does happen. I'm not sure if it's completely legal, but I do know that some scrap metal dealers do sell some very good quality straight bits. Now, I sort of beg the legitimacy of some of this, because certainly here at Gaslec, I wouldn't be throwing away 3 meters of copper pipe for recycling. Let's just say that. But some of these guys that do the contract work, let's say for the big fellas to get allocated pipe work, and then the pipe that doesn't all get used, they then want to sell it quick because they ain't got nowhere place to store it, so they're just waiting for scrap. And this is perfectly brand new copper pipe. And what you can do is you can buy that pipe, take it home, get yourself a good set, a quality bit of tools and a blow lamp like a Rothenberger, fire torch, whatever it's called, and then have a practice on your soldering. Watch your YouTube videos, get a set of benders and get practice on your bending. And don't forget, when you're finished with that copper pipe, you take it back to that same scrap dealer, and then you get your money back for it. No, you won't get 100% of your money back. Of course you won't, because everyone's in the business to make a little bit of money. But all is not lost on that. That's what I'm trying to get through to you. So just have a play with it. Have a research on it. Get some plastic pipes. Have a play. But then once you get a bit of an understanding of it, and have the attitude of you never stop learning. And I've been in this game for a long, long time, and I'll still pick up bits and pieces to do with plumbing and heating. So I'll probably learn something new probably once a week. I know a little tip or a trick that I'll find out, and typically through social media and little short videos and stuff like that. So just do that. But if you do go and work for someone, be honest with them. Tell them that you're keen as mustard, you're new to the industry, give you a chance, and be willing to work for almost next to nothing, if for free, on weekends. If you've got if you've got a daytime job, you work shifts, just get out there. And if you really show that level of enthusiasm out there to get into the plumbing and heating industry, you will be in the top 1%, mate. There are so many people that they just think it should be handed on a plate to them. And if you're showing the initiative and certainly reaching out to us as well on that Facebook group and sending me that little DM, showing that you are keen. And it is a good industry. You won't be earning fantastic money, certainly in the early days, but get your knowledge, get your skill. It's not going away. You start looking at gas. I think we've got another 10 years with gas here in the UK, and it's starting to dive off with all the renewables and the government support for it all. And I think in 2035, when we're going to start seeing the ban on gas boilers coming in, that's when we're going to start to say we'll have a little bit of a rush coming through, but then after that we've just got the repairs side. So the gas industry really has got its deadline of its date, but the old plumbing, the renewable side, the refrigeration side, the air to air, like we've got up there the air conditioning units, and obviously our heat pumps, wet heating systems, they ain't going away. Water coming out of taps, that's not going away. So stick with it, learn your craft, learn your skill, be humble, and never stop learning, and you'll go far, mate, because you're in the 1%. Okay, well, thank you very much indeed for listening, guys. And if you've made it this far, thank you very much. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do. If you've made it this far on the podcast, if you email me at podcast@gaslec.net, I'm giving away a 25 quid Amazon gift voucher. And all you got to do is email me the word copper. Email it to Copper for this week only coming up. So today's the 1st of June. Tuesday the 3rd will be the release date of this podcast, and we'll do it for 7 days, which I think will be Tuesday the 10th. It'll run out, and we'll do the draw for a 25 quid Amazon voucher, and we'll email that straight to you as a little thank you for getting to this far in the podcast. Please and you can leave a little review on it as well. Leave any comments on the Spotify, onto the YouTube, and I'll get back to you. If you've got any questions that you want answered, email us in, leave a comment below, and then we'll take care of that as well. Thank you very much indeed for listening, guys. Have a fantastic week. Take care. Goodbye.